Welcome to the Sky Therapeutics podcast. I'm your host, Tara Torres, a clinical nutritionist, researcher, educator, and consultant specializing in areas of weight loss, autoimmune disease, gastrointestinal disorders, metabolic syndrome, and other obesity-related conditions. I help clients improve their health through proper functional nutrition, professional-grade supplement protocols, exercise recommendations, education, and support using a personalized, evidence-based approach. At Sky Therapeutics, we offer functional nutrition solutions for chronic disease and help our clients develop sustainable lifestyle habits that will last a lifetime. As a friendly reminder, the information and opinions provided here today is to be taken as general information only, and you should always contact your personal physician or other qualified healthcare professional if you have any questions about your personal health and wellness. Hi there, and welcome to podcast episode 15, where we're talking about infusing Ayurvedic wisdom and modern life with our guest, Dr. Shivani Gupta. Dr. Shivani is a busy wife and a mother of two. She understands the challenges modern women face when it comes to putting their health and well-being first. Unfortunately, for many women, self-care has become a dirty word and yet another unrealistic expectation on our never-ending to-do list. So she created her revolutionary Modern Ayurveda program and Fusionary Formulas to fuse East and West practices for self-care, digestion, stress reduction, and metabolism. I am so excited to share our discussion today, so stay tuned. Well, welcome again to the Sky Therapeutics podcast. I know you have a ton of speaking experience, and I loved watching your videos on your website, and I'm just so excited to pick your brain.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
So, can you tell me a little bit about your background? I know you and I talked a little bit previously. You said you've lived in Houston before, but you're in Florida now, right?
Correct. Yes. I'm a born and raised Houstonian, grew up in Clear Lake and then over near the Rice Village. And I've lived in Florida for 20 plus years now, ever since I got married.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, but you went to school where? Your degree?
I did my undergrad in business and social entrepreneurship because I always wanted to create social ventures that change the world. And then I did my master's in Ayurvedic sciences and my PhD on turmeric the spice.
Okay. Okay. Is that a local university or online? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
It was actually in Orlando, but they had a new location opening here in South Florida where I am. So my cohort and my professors were down here.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm currently getting my degree from the University of Western States, which is in Portland, Oregon. So for the past 2 years, it's been all online and we haven't met yet, but we're all meeting at graduation, which is so neat. It's just a different experience.
That's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So I find that people typically get into like nutrition and health and wellness for personal reasons. Either they experience something, traumatically health altering, or maybe somebody near them did. Can you tell us a little bit about what prompted you to go down this path?
Yes. So growing up, I'd go to India every year of my life, and I would see in front of me someone would pass away or have a traumatic thing happen due to diabetes. And so I watched, for example, my grandfather had Parkinson's and then he had his leg amputated. My other grandfather passed away of a heart attack. My grandma had a quadruple bypass. But I kept watching this and thinking, what is this? And why is it that these are great people living their lives, raising their families well, building success? Why is it that that entire last quarter of our lives is spent doing this? And simultaneously, I was sick. I was always sick, and I felt like I had no immune system. So all of a sudden, by the time I reached college, I was like, you know what? There has to be a different way to approach this. And I was so sick. I was sitting in a doctor's office in India, and I told my parents, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. Like, we are in the land of yoga and Ayurveda. I need to go find a new approach for my health. And so they were willing to take me on this quest all over India, and we studied it, discovered at the feet of all these gurus that Ayurveda's got so much wisdom when it comes to our health. We just have to learn about it and apply it to ourselves.
Yeah, it's thousands of years old, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a 5,000-year-old science, and it teaches us so much about our health, about how to live a lifestyle that's truly preventive.
And I think it's similar to functional medicine or integrative medicine, and that it's all about a balance. But for Ayurveda, it's the balance of mind, body, and soul, right?
Correct. That's the exact goal we have, is to bring mind, body, and spirit into alignment. So we're feeling vibrant, we're feeling healthy, we're able to pursue our passions and our dreams because we've got that energy and that vitality to do so.
And that's largely through diet and lifestyle, is what I'm understanding.
Exactly. Exactly. Like our whole goal is to show these pillars of health that include understanding your dosha or your individual mind body constitution. And that dictates who you are and how you are and what you should be eating. Then we teach about circadian rhythm, the circadian clock, and how living in rhythm with nature is how we're going to support our body and kind of going downstream with life instead of fighting upstream with life all the time. We talk a lot about sleep, sleep hygiene, sleep patterns, sleep according to that circadian clock. Then there's diet, lifestyle, how to eat, when to eat, what to eat, those ideas. Then we also talk a lot about gut digestive health. Ayurveda taught about gut health before everybody else. And so we have a lot of protocols and tools around gut healing and what we can do for that as well.
I feel like there's just so much overlap in what I do. I want to take this video and I want to put it at the bottom of every single note that I send to every single one of my clients, because I always talk about like nutrition, here's all the dietary recommendations, and then we have supplements. And then at the very bottom, like, oh, by the way, here's my lifestyle stuff. You have to manage your stress. You have to start sleeping better, sleep in
Yeah.
a cool, dark room, deep breathing, and all of these different things. And people are like, I thought I was just coming here for nutrition and diet. And I'm like, no,
Oh,
it's all of
it's
it.
exactly, it's all interconnected.
Right, especially with the gut. And it's so interesting to me that Ayurveda recognizes and acknowledges like that the gut is kind of in the center of all these different systems, physically and otherwise.
True, it very much does. Ayurveda teaches that gut health is the center of all health. And so building that gut health and that digestive fire is the key, because otherwise we're not going to absorb, we're not going to assimilate, we're not going to be able to utilize the good nutrition that we're pouring in. We're wasting our time. And so really addressing it from that building blocks standpoint is the way that we support everyone in having that fire that's going to support you, not just in the food aspect and the digestive aspect, but your immune system and all systems working well.
Okay, so before we dive into like the herbs and the spices, can you tell me what does Ayurveda, promote as far as like a diet? What are like the main pillars? I can say from functional medicine, well, I just think a Western diet right now as it is, or the standard American diet is very inflammatory, but I feel like in my community of functional medicine and nutrition, it's a big bag of, some people promote Mediterranean, some people promote keto, some people are promoting carnivore. Like, where does Ayurveda stand in that?
It's a great question. Ayurveda always chooses the road of moderation. What is the middle line that works for you and not being too extreme in one direction or too extreme in the other? So, not vegan, not carnivore, not like following those extremes, but really what is that middle ground? I would say we're much closer to like a Mediterranean diet, which is about local and fresh and healthy and anti inflammatory. What is part of your local food and your cultural food that's beneficial to you? We also teach a concept called the sattvic diet. So the sattvic diet means this yogic diet. What is going to bring you peace and harmony and health in your body? There are certain foods that can be more agitating. We call those tamasic foods and rajasic foods. So there's these foods that will like onion and garlic and hot spicy things are going to aggravate and agitate things versus eating things like fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, your milk, your cheeses, your yogurt. So Ayurveda really teaches about a whole nutrition diet that's balanced and really customizes that per person based on their dosha.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. So I did your quiz and I found out I'm a PETA. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, pitta.
Okay. So, and it was pretty accurate as far as
Oh,
like emotions and just
yeah,
everything. It's funny.
awesome. Yeah, when you do that dosha quiz, you come to understand like your nature of your personality, some of your physical traits, some of your mental emotional traits, and then some of the things that you struggle with in terms of food or diet or lifestyle. So it's really cool to take the dosha quiz.
Okay. And so is that something you have if you're working one-on-one? I don't know how much one-on-one or group you do. I think you do a little bit of both, but when you're working with somebody, are you having them do these quizzes so that you can identify their type, the dosha type, and then prescribe a diet?
Absolutely. I always have people do that dosha quiz so I can understand like where are we coming from, where are we at? And I actually have a much bigger, deeper dosha quiz that I do on them because I want to understand what is their dosha from birth and then where are they now? And how are we going to get them back to balance to their original dosha that they came in with?
But that's interesting. So you're getting them back into balance through diet and lifestyle, and I imagine key herbs and spices, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So, I love this particular podcast because I feel like I want Sky Therapeutics to be a place for everybody. Like we want to hold space for everybody. And I realize that not everybody's into functional medicine, not everybody's into nutrition or Ayurveda, but I think that this is certainly something that could apply to all of my clients who are trying, I am working with to get off of like sugary dressings and things like that. I'm always trying to convert them into more spices and herbs. I'm like, we can spice things up and flavor it up in a way that's going to
Right.
be appetizing and get you wanting to eat this healthy food and change your lifestyle, but also with an added benefit that you don't get necessarily with like bad oils and things like that and sauces.
True. No, it's very true. I think we underestimate the power of super spices as superfoods. And so that's a key message I want to share with the world, which is we can flavor our foods differently. You're right. It doesn't have to be sugar and salt all the time. And so I think a lot of times we forget to look in that spice cabinet and realize there's so many choices in there.
I was just looking at something on TikTok or Instagram the other day, and it was a video talking about pink or Himalayan salt, right? And a lot of times it's more pricey at the grocery store because they're claiming that it has so many extra minerals, this, that, and the other thing. And when you really look at it, it's like a 2% difference, right?
Mm.
But the argument that this person who posted the video is that, it's all a gimmick and, just stick with regular table salt. Well, for me, I wanted to contraindicate that and say, well, no, it's all about the accumulative effect of all of these different things.
Right.
So, no, pink Himalayan salt does not have exponentially 50% more minerals. But I
Right.
think when you layer that in with all the other herbs and spices by the end of the day and the week and the month and a year of that practice, you will have
Exactly.
a profound impact on your body, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Each thing that we do adds up. And that's the thing is so many times we get overwhelmed by all the different things that we're asked to do for our health. But I think of it as each little thing adds up. So each thing I do, like for example, I'm having my amino acids in my water today. Good job. That's a win. When I take my probiotics, my turmeric, that's a win. So I agree with you. I like it as building blocks that we operationalize into our lives, that we do daily, that, like you said, have that cumulative effect. So if I gave up plastic Tupperware, for example. And I've done that for life. That's going to have a cumulative effect. Same thing, if I've given up plastic water bottles, that's going to have a cumulative effect. So I love finding things like that where it's like, okay, I've operationalized that change. That's a change for life. And we know that it's going to impact reduction of environmental factors in the body, reduction of inflammation, reduction of the body battling with itself with all these foreign ingredients inside of us. And that's how we win over time.
Right. So, what got you so interested in turmeric? Of all of the herbs and spices, why turmeric?
I was sitting in herbology class in my master's program, and everything in my master's was so cool. I was like, I could study any of this. I'm so passionate about pregnancy, fertility, women's health. Like, there's so many topics in there. And when I was sitting in herbology class, each spice that they defined for us and explained, I was like, that's everything we eat a superfood for. Telling me it's in turmeric, it's in ginger. That's insane. Like, I want something that I can eat that is anti-inflammatory like turmeric, antioxidant, immune supportive, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, kills off zombie cells in the body, anti-aging, causes apoptosis to kill off all the bad things that we should not be carrying around in us. Like, to me, all of that is incredible. So when I heard that about turmeric, I just thought, why are we not using it in a more wide scale way? Like, why is it that when I hurt myself and I go to orthopedics, they give me NSAIDs and things for 2 weeks and then I'm in pain? So that was really the premise I came from, was just like, wow, like this, if this thing is that effective, what if we could show that to the world? And so that's why I ended up studying it. And I also studied it because my own family dealt with diabetes and chronic disease. And I thought, wow, if this ingredient actually can do all that, we have a real solution on our hands for like mankind. So I ended up doing my PhD on it, and that turned me into a very crazy evangelist of turmeric because once I read that much science for that many years, I really do think it's the best spice we can use for our health. And yeah, I think we should utilize it more. I think we should take it every day. I think it supports us in so many ways. And then now, many years later, I'm working with scientists on like why is it so well received by so many genes in the body. So I'm working with geneticists who are like, I don't know why, but curcumin is probably one of the best absorbed things by the body. This is so cool. So it's fun to further advance that science.
That is so interesting. I'm taking a genetics class right now, which is my second one, but this time at a doctoral level, and it's just so much deeper. But we were recently talking about like genetic SNPs related to turmeric specifically. And it's
Mhm.
just wild to me that we have the scientific capability to look at some of
Yes.
these genes and see like how your body would potentially process this.
Correct. And it's funny because now it's the science explaining what I've seen for the last 10 years. So for the last 10 years, as I've been putting formulations into humans, I've seen, okay, turmeric is usually absorbed quickly and the big issues get resolved first. And I'm like, oh, okay, so the body knows exactly where to send it to deal with like the big fires. Then it goes after the small fires and heals all sorts of little things like gingivitis or more subtle things. So it's really fascinating that the science is showing that it's so well received by so many genes. And the body with plant medicine has this intelligence of putting it where it needs to go in the order in which it needs to solve the issues. It's all fascinating to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think I've seen a lot of studies out there showing its benefits in a lot of different conditions. I also know that you have to be careful about how you take it related to medications. And, maybe you could touch on that and whether there are certain conditions and where it would be contraindicated, or is it truly beneficial for everyone?
If you're taking any blood thinners, you should not take a high dose curcumin supplement. Turmeric is a vasodilator. It can thin the blood. And so you have to be careful there. And then anyone who's dealing with gallbladder issues like kidney stones, gallbladder, or low iron, those are also three people types who should watch out.
Okay. And what about, I was reading something about like the CYP 450 enzymes and how does it increase or inhibit like the breakdown of certain things in the liver, I think.
It's interesting. Curcumin does affect so many different pathways in the body all over. So it does impact like IL-6, IL-9, interleukins. In the liver, it does help. I believe it reduces. I forgot how you say it. I just presented on it at a medical conference. It does affect liver enzymes. I believe it reduces our glucose releases. There's something there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then I know that I'm always going to say this wrong, to the point where people have roasted me in the past, but piperine or piperine.
Piperin, yeah.
Right. So when I was looking at the mechanism of action, so we need that with the curcumin. So curcumin being the bioactive component of turmeric and to increase the
Correct.
bioavailability or how it's absorbed. But when
Mhm.
you look at the mechanism of action, it's by inhibiting enzymes in the gut. No. So like I'm trying to understand timing of taking turmeric. Do we take it with a meal? Do you take it with a smoothie where you don't need as many digestive enzymes, or do you take it away from things?
It's a great question. So out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% is the curcuminoids. Out of those curcuminoids, curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. And it's so important that when you take those three curcuminoids, you're going to take them in the right ratio and the right proportion for absorption. So that delivery mechanism aspect is very important because a lot of times with curcumin supplements nowadays, it's unregulated. People can do whatever they want. They don't have to even do third-party testing. But when they take that curcumin, sometimes they're synthetically pushing their numbers up. And so you're not getting that exact proportion that nature has designed for us. So that's part one. Part two, we know that curcumin is better absorbed by the body with black pepper or a healthy fat. That's why you see so many supplements out there adding black pepper. So if you are cooking with regular turmeric in the kitchen, make sure you're doing so with fat or black pepper in there. But when you use piperin, we know that it increases that absorption by 2000%. We also know that healthy fat helps. So I tell people If you can, just take it twice a day with your food, take it with your meals. But because the pepper is built in there, you can take it any time of day on its own as well. But if you wanted to hedge your bet, like if you have a true issue that you want to be like significantly reducing the inflammation, I do think it's better to take it with the meal.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm so glad that you mentioned about supplements and how there's no regulation on there, because I do think that the dose matters and then where we're sourcing it. And I know that I saw a video on, you know, your website about that. Um, what about like testing for like heavy metals? Like what are things that people should be looking for when they're looking for the best supplement? And how do you guys do that?
So the thing is, when we walk into our corner drugstore and buy a supplement, we already know that the Wall Street Journal, I believe it is, or the New York Times did a huge article, I think it was 10 plus years ago now, on how most of those supplements do not have the active ingredient to the level stated on the bottle. And that really frustrated me. I was like, wow, I'm buying vitamin D and it might not be vitamin D at the level I need, but I'm taking it for my health and for my immune system. That's not fair. So when I went to build a supplement, I was like, okay, how do I do this in a way that I can look a doctor in the eye and say, hey, when you give this to your patient, it is going to work and it is safe. So I went to India and sourced out of South India, out of suppliers who really treat their factories and their investigations and their research like pharmaceuticals do. Like we in supplements now have truly reached pharmaceutical grade standards in terms of how we produce everything we do. And there's so many testings that you can do on the India side. And then I actually produce in the US because I want to manage that production tightly. I want to know, I want to look in the eye of someone who has the same liability I do here in the US. They have the same laws applying to them. And we do all third-party testing here. So it arrives, your ID testing. Did I get what I ordered? Your heavy metal testing. Does this have anything in it that would harm somebody? You're doing antimicrobial testing. Like, are there any microbes or anything harmful in this? Then we go into our full production runs. And when we're in production, we're really watching, testing everything we're doing. And then we make sure that post-production, we're testing again. Did any microbes get added in there? And these are all third-party certifications. So that level of treatment you typically only see in a supplement company that's at a more medical grade, that's practitioner level carried by healthcare practitioners. You're not typically going to see that at the drugstore or the grocery store because we're at very different price points. There you're paying 20 bucks, or on Amazon, for example, where you have no idea what they're putting in there, versus when you go into a practitioner office of any kind, acupuncture, chiropractic, functional medicine, any of these types of practitioners are going to the conferences, meeting the founders and investigating and seeing the science that shows what these supplements do. And so that's why I think so many people have told us over the years, I was taking turmeric, but it wasn't doing anything. And then I took yours. Now I feel it. I'm like, well, that just comes down to quality.
That's such an important message that everybody needs to hear, because there's so many things available over the counter and online these days. And you have to think like, even if somebody decided to pick up your supplement brand or somebody else's, another company's, and sell them, like, are they going to be storing them and shipping them the way that you would have? If you know, you want to stay away from third parties, and places like Amazon are full of them.
And a lot of people just private label now. So every influencer is out there and it's like, I have my own turmeric, I have my own this. And I'm like, who made it? Do you have any idea? If you're just ordering anything online and slapping your name on it, you have no idea what is in there.
Yes, I'm always looking for the research. Where are your clinical trials? Where's the reference list? Like, show me where you're finding that this dose works this many times per day for this condition. And I think, you know, it's hard to do that. So that's where I try to take that work away from my clients and my patients and do that
For
for them.
sure. And it's a huge investment for any supplement company to engage in their own clinical trials. Like we are in the middle of doing our own because we want to prove for chronic knee pain that our formulas win. Because so many people take it for their chronic joint pain. So many people want to keep function in their hands, they want their back to work, they want to walk. But yeah, it's a big endeavor. You have to be of a certain size to be able to do those trials. So many of us lean on the published science, and that's why I'm pushing published science forward as well. Just let's publish more science on curcumin that we can all understand and use for each disease out there.
Good for you guys. I love that. And then you guys are, um, Do we need to worry about like pesticides and herbicides and something like turmeric? Because it's a root grown in a vegetable over in India, but then you're processing it here. Is that a part of that whole inspection?
Yes, our